So we are less than 1 week away from E3 2021 and Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, and obviously there's going to be a lot of fun stuff happening within the world of video games. We're going to get new game announcements, big presentations, surprise reveals, maybe even stealth drops of games, and it's a very exciting time. But leading up to E3 can be just as interesting because of all the rumors, all the speculation that is happening before this event even takes place. And right now there's two very strange situations happening, one involving GameStop and one involving Nintendo. Now, I'm not saying there's any correlation between these two strange events happening and that one means anything for the other, but I do think the timing of them is a little bit weird. So in today's video, I want to talk about these two situations, what's going on with GameStop, and more importantly, what's going on with Nintendo, because that might be the more interesting of the two situations. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like and share the video. I mean, we're going to be talking about video games during E3, you might as well stick around, but let's talk about this weird GameStop and weird Nintendo situation and see what we can come up with. So we're going to talk about the GameStop situation first, because if anything, I feel like that could maybe lead into something with Nintendo. Now, like I said, there is no necessarily correlation between these two things. I just find everything very interesting and, well, very weird. So weird, in fact, that we're going to bring back Robert Stack from Unsolved Mysteries, who made a cameo on the channel yesterday. If you didn't watch yesterday's video on the channel, shame on you. Shame on you. But GameStop is, of course, the biggest retailer for video games in North America and potentially even worldwide in the regions that they are in. Now, I worked at GameStop in my early 20s. I was the acting assistant manager because they didn't want to pay me assistant manager money, but they made me do assistant manager stuff. It was a great time. Now, granted, I didn't really care. I was young. I was surrounded by video games. It was cool to me. If you want to hear my trials and tribulations about working at GameStop, there is a video up on the channel. But I obviously know how GameStop works, and there's something very strange happening at GameStop next week. So this was first reported, I believe, by the YouTube channel Nintendo Prime. I'll have a link to it in the description box down below. He basically got a document that was sent to him that was allegedly an internal GameStop document. And what was weird about it was on June 15th and June 16th, which of course happens next week, they are saying that stores should have double coverage for these days. Now, in the comment section of that video, there was people saying that they worked at GameStop and that they were also told that there needs to be double coverage on those 2 days. Nintendo Prime says that he reached out to a friend of his that is a general manager at GameStop, and they also confirmed this same sort of thing, so the document was real and that they needed to have double coverage on those 2 days. Now, like I said, I worked at GameStop, and that's bizarre to me because GameStop is a company that wants to bleed you dry. They do not want double coverage. They don't want single coverage half the time because they want to make as much money as possible. The only time that I can think of when we had double coverage at our GameStop, where they told us to have double coverage, was during Black Friday morning, which of course is a huge sale day. You know, you open up at like 6 or 7 a.m. and there's people banging on the door wanting to get these deals because they're cheap asses, which I kind of respect, or during something involving a system. Now, when I worked at GameStop, the Wii was a very hot item, and whenever like Wii pre-orders would open up because we were getting a certain amount, I believe that they would tell us to have double coverage on those days because there's so many people and so many people calling and so much foot traffic coming into the store because they had to get the Wii and play with the waggle controls for your Wii tennis and your Wii bowling. But beyond that, big sale days at the store, like nothing. There was no double coverage, and GameStop, like I said, is a company that wants to bleed you dry. So what is happening on June 15th and June 16th that they're needing to have double coverage in their stores? I don't know, and that's what makes things very weird. Now, supposedly there was supposed to be some sort of announcement happening before E3 that was hardware related. I can't quite recall which company it involved, but of course E3 is quickly approaching. We haven't gotten that hardware announcement, so a lot of people are on the fence of whether that hardware announcement will even happen, myself included. It's just a very bizarre situation. But if that hardware announcement were to happen this week and then pre-orders opened up after E3, wouldn't that sort of make sense for GameStop to have double coverage during this? Now, like I said, I'm not saying there's any correlation. I'm not even saying what company. This could be the Sega Spartan. Remember that new Sega console that's been coming for like 50 years that's gonna reinvent the video game industry? Maybe the Sega Spartan is announced this week, and then GameStop takes pre-orders on the 15th and 16th. But it is very strange that they're having double coverage on those 2 days. I guess maybe it could just be a big after E3 sale, because if E3 game announcements happen, I mean, you could just call your store or stop in and pre-order these games. Like, it's not like they're going to close down. But I find it very interesting. Robert Stack, what do you think of this? GameStop wants you to have double coverage on June 15th and June 16th. But why? Maybe you can help solve this mystery. Obviously, out of these two situations that are happening right now, the one with Nintendo has to be even more weird. Now, I'm not going to talk about some supposed event that's going to happen this week because, you know, if it happens, great, that's awesome. If not, then, I guess Mochizuki just has egg on his face and just doesn't look very good with this. But what's happening right now with Nintendo is just very puzzling to me. Now, last night, a Nintendo Switch hardware update went out. This was hardware update 12.0.3, and you could just download it. Everyone was looking into it, like Oatmeal Dome, people that sort of look into the details about what this firmware update does for the Nintendo Switch, and there wasn't really anything going on with this. Now, there have been previous firmware updates that included things like Bluetooth support and whatnot that got people very interested, sort of a little hint at maybe something coming, but with this update, nothing was really involved with this. Now, at first, I was kind of like, well, why is there another Nintendo Switch system update? Because we've had several, like very recently. Back in April 5th of 2021, we had version 12.0.0. April 19th, we have 12.0.1, and May 11th, we had version 12.0.2. And all these things were pretty much contingent on one thing after the initial 12.0 update, and that was stability. Now, this is something that was very common on the Nintendo 3DS, so much in fact that there were jokes about it that people would always make, because pretty much all the Nintendo 3DS updates that we got for like the last year or two of the system's life cycle were just stability updates. But the timing of these updates is very interesting because there's a lot of updates happening in a very rapid succession, and then supposedly these updates are doing absolutely nothing. You haven't heard about any major issues happening with the Nintendo Switch or anything like that, so why would all these updates be happening? Hell, even Mario Kart 8 Deluxe got a random update that supposedly was like fixing some minor problem that was in the game, and this, I believe, was like the first update that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe ever got on the Nintendo Switch. Nearly 4 years after the release of the game, this game got an update. So a lot of people were like, well, why are all these updates happening? But here's where things get really weird. Now, obviously, having a lot of updates in rapid succession is a weird enough thing in its own. But like I said, version 12.0.3 released last night for the Nintendo Switch. I downloaded it while I was playing my Switch, but now the update has been pulled. It's gone. If you turn on your Nintendo Switch, you cannot download the firmware update 12.0.3, and nobody knows why. Why would this update get pulled? Why would this firmware update get pulled if it's just something for stability? Was it too stable? Is there not enough stability with this system? Was this update launched before it was supposed to launch because maybe it involves something else? I don't know, but I find it very, very strange. Like, what the hell is Nintendo doing right now? Why are they releasing so many updates for the Nintendo Switch? Why would they release an update for the system and then back on this update, remove this update, and now you can't download this update anymore? Now, at the time of the filming of this video, Nintendo has not came out and said why they removed this update, and I really don't think they're going to. But, releasing an update the week of E3 and then removing the update from the Nintendo Switch so that you cannot update the firmware anymore, like, is there a way for me to go back if there's a major problem? Because now I have 12.0.3. Can I go back to 12.0.2? Why would you remove 12.0.3? Why am I saying so many points in this video? It doesn't make sense. So, what do these two situations mean for each other? Nothing, potentially, or there could be something that goes involved with it. Robert Stack, what do you think of this? Nintendo is releasing firmware updates at a rapid rate, and they've removed their latest firmware update after last night. But why? Maybe you can help solve this mystery. And that, to me, is probably the most interesting thing with this whole thing. You don't see companies pulling firmware updates for their systems unless there's some major problem. I played around on 12.0.3 last night. Nothing happened. My system didn't blow up or anything like that. So why was this firmware update removed? Why is Nintendo doing so many firmware updates in a rapid succession? Why did Mario Kart 8 Deluxe get a firmware or a software update as well? What the hell is GameStop doing that's so important that they need double staffing for next week on June 15th and June 16th? I don't know. And the fact that I don't know and that I don't want to speculate too much just kind of drives me nuts, because I love to speculate on things, but I just want to present this information at face value because I want to know what you guys think of this stuff. Is there some sort of correlation between what is happening at GameStop and what is happening with Nintendo right now? Is there going to be some sort of announcement, maybe the Sega Spartan, like I said, that is announced this week, and then pre-orders start after E3, and that's why people need to have double coverage at their local GameStops on June 15th or June 16th? Is there there's some big in-store event going. Like, is Miyamoto gonna do like tours of GameStop's? Like, none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense, and it drives me crazy because I always feel like I can sort of see at least some sort of correlation on the surface level between strange events. And right now, I can't make sense of this GameStop thing because of the fact that it's the 15th and the 16th. It's after E3. I can't make sense of all these Nintendo Switch firmware updates and Nintendo removing a firmware update because it doesn't make sense, and that's the problem. It's driving me nuts. But I want to know what you guys have to think about these situations. And as always, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, like I said, be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, check out other videos on the channel as well. We're going to be doing a bunch of E3 stuff, and maybe, just maybe, some of this stuff will make sense at the end of the day. And as always, guys, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.